Hey everyone, so for this video I will be replacing the battery for this HP netbook, particularly the HP Pavilion 11-F108TU. This laptop is actually used by my mom, and upon checking, this particular model has been identified to have some battery defects, so HP was sending out some free battery replacements for it. So to be able to replace the battery of this particular laptop or netbook, you have to remove all the screws underneath. You can see that there are these rubber coverings on both back ends, and as well as these 2 feet that you have to basically remove to be able to access the screws under them. And you also have these screws that are not covered, so they're easily accessed and can be removed and replaced or put back easily. So all in all, there are about 11 screws that you have to remove from underneath the underside. Let me just put on some light to make this clearer. So what I'll be doing first would be to remove the 2 hind rubber feet as well as the 2 rubber coverings right next to them. I'll be using this paper cutter to pry off the rubber covers. If you have another tool that's basically not sharp, I guess that would be better, as long as you can insert it between the plastic cover and the rubber pieces, just to be able to make this process safer. Then let's move on to the small rubber coverings on both back sides. Same process, just use the thin either a paper cutter like this, or let's say a guitar pick, just to pry them off because they're stuck on using this soft adhesive, so it should not take much effort. So once that's done, just make sure to put them aside so you can put them back later. Put them on back later, and we can now proceed with removing about 11 screws from this underside. As you can see, for the rubber feet that I removed, there are about 3 indentations per foot, but there's actually just 1 screw that you have to remove from each foot. Okay, so now all screws are removed. So we flip the laptop back over, right side up, open up the cover, and what we have to do now is to basically pry open the plastic top holding the keys, because unlike usual laptops, the bottom side doesn't just pop off when you remove the screws. You can see from this angle, there's actually a gap, a very tiny gap between the base and the plastic covering holding the keyboard. So again, you have to have a thin plastic or metal tool to pry open the plastic clips that hold this cover in place. I'm going to be using one of the tools from my, I guess, multi-tool. My suggestion is to find a plastic based material, or hard plastic based material, because if you use a metal tool like this, what will definitely happen is you're gonna bend some of the plastic that holds, or the plastic of basically the base. So it's definitely something that's just aesthetic, but if you want to preserve basically the looks of your laptop or your netbook, you should try to consider finding a softer material, like I said, the hard plastic material, if it's available to you. So you just basically have to start from the hinge side and then go all around it, making sure to like every few inches or centimeters you have to be able to hear the click or the pop, which means that the plastic lock has been released, and then continue on to the next one until the significant gap between the two pieces of plastic is seen. I would say that the bottom and side parts are easier to pry up compared to the sides near the hinge, so make sure to go back to this side to ensure that the plastic locks are indeed popped off. It might be a little more difficult to do compared to the bottom and the sides, but it is still doable. Just have to have a little patience. So for this, you can see that the plastic covering or the plastic part that holds the keyboard can already be lifted from the front side, but the hinge part still kind of holds on to the bottom. So you have to apply a little bit of force to be able to pop off that part, but make sure to try, if possible, to remove the cables that are connected inside, just to ensure that they aren't pulled off from where they are connected in the base. As you can see, there are three basically ribbons or cables that hold the keyboard part to the base, and on the PCB part in the base, there are locks basically that you have to open or flip up to be able to pull out the cables. So it's a little difficult to explain or show in this angle, but basically in the lock position, the plastic parts or locks lie down or lie parallel against the PCB, and you have to basically flip them 90 degrees so that they face up or are face away from the PCB. So now that these are all removed, you can put the whole keyboard, I guess, plastic assembly aside, because you won't be needing them to replace the battery. And for this, I guess you can already see the problem. The battery is the black assembly in the lower middle part of the PCB, and you can kind of see from this angle, the way that the light hits it, is that the right part is already bloated. The right part of the battery is already bloated. Again, here is the battery for this netbook. So there are basically 4 screws that hold them in place. So again, take your Phillips screwdriver and remove them. And don't forget to pull out the connector to the PCB of the battery. So now that all 4 screws have been removed, you can basically just lift the battery assembly away from the base, and then slowly wiggle out the hard plastic part of the battery connector. Remember to not pull it out by the wires. Just use your two thumbs, particularly your nails, to be able to pop them out. So just put the base part aside and see and try to compare the two batteries, the old one and the one that HP sent as a replacement. So again, for this old one, you can obviously see that both sides, actually, not just the right one, have already ballooned, especially when you compare it to the new one, where you can see that the middle part is actually indented as opposed to being completely flat. So the old battery definitely has problems, even if when using the netbook you can't actually see it or you can't feel it in terms of the usage and the life of the battery. So reversing the entire process, we now put the battery assembly back into the base and then reconnecting the plug into the PCB, or you can opt to plug in the connector first if you're having difficulties with doing it after mounting the battery. Then placing the battery into its designated position. Next, we proceed with putting back the 4 screws that hold the battery in place. Once that is done, the next step would be to put the keyboard and cover assembly back into its original position, starting of course from the hinge portion or the hinge side. We're not going to pop the locks back into place yet, since we need to reconnect the 3 cables into their corresponding positions on the base PCB. So if you did not move back the locks into the original lock position, so they should still be open, so there should be no obstacles or any obstructions when putting back the said 3 cables into their corresponding positions. So once you place the locks back in their original place or in the lock position, for good measure, you should make a very light tug on the ribbons just to make sure that they won't be going out of place or moving out of their corresponding connectors. So once that is done, you can now proceed to put the locks, plastic locks, back in place, again starting from the hinge side of the cover and moving around to the side, then finally to the bottom part. So make sure you hear the defined clicks, and also to make sure to run your fingers through the sides to make sure that it is flush. Then you can flip over the laptop again to replace or to put back the screws that we removed. Once the screws are back in place, we can proceed to put back the rubber coverings. So once that is done, then you are finished with the battery replacement process of the HP Pavilion 11. So I hope this video helps you a lot in doing this for your own HP Pavilion 11. And please do like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you in the next one.